Well, this is Striv Educators Chat, and it is a video series with teachers just sharing their story about, COVID-19 and how they're changing their teaching style and, what they're doing differently and what the community looks like. And so this is our first episode. Scott is our
Awesome.
first guest, and that's all we know.
I'm
We're just going to
honored.
go. Yeah. Thank you so much for saying yes. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's been a learning process on our end. So, but I've really enjoyed like the connections with teachers and being able to say, okay, I don't know how to use Zoom. How do you do this? I don't know how to use Google Classroom. How do you do this? And yeah, so I'm excited to be here and share what I know on my area.
Well, then that's a perfect intro. So let's just go. So tell us a little bit, Scott, obviously 3 weeks ago, nobody was thinking about anything of what you're doing right now. School was there were questions perhaps, but nobody knew what in the world was going on. And now we're week and a half or so into most of it now. So what's going on with Arlington? How are you guys kind of getting through this?
Well, I'm not an instructional technologist officially right now with them, but in that role, I always we would try to encourage people, and it'd be like, well, maybe I'll get working on that over summer. Maybe I'll pick that up and I'll start working on making this a little more digital so I can access it and do this and that. And that wasn't, and there's people that have been working on it in process and building, but it was kind of like, here it is. We didn't have a spring break as a gap. We had last week got the notification on Monday or on Sunday night that we weren't going to have school for that week. And then all week long, it just became like, how do we get kids in to get their stuff? Because it wasn't planned. It wasn't even thought of. It kind of the big hit was, I want to say it was March 13th. That Friday when there was the press conference in the morning where it's kind of like, okay, this is actually going to hit us. And this is actually going to be, something that's going to impact our school big time. So Sunday night, then found out we weren't in school, and Monday, teachers are starting to get things rolling. Tuesday, still rolling. Wednesday and Thursday, we brought in kids in smaller numbers based on the alphabet, based on their last names, and then Friday, once again, making sure everything was kind of solidified. And a lot of teachers were, I wouldn't put a percentage to it, but a lot of teachers were getting a little more of a grasp of how they were going to handle this for potentially the duration of the school year.
That's a great point, because now we've got, we really do. We have the school year is very much in doubt. I know literally as we record this here on a Wednesday afternoon, it was only a couple hours ago, the NSAA sent out a memo that the NSAA activities and practices are going to be shut down at least until May 1st. I know a lot of schools, and ESUs is kind of how this is going now, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of shutting down by ESU. So how has from a little bit of the technical side, how has the integration, because you've got teachers in a district, some that I'm sure probably were like, what's Zoom? I can do this. Let's go. And you probably also had some that were like, nope, don't like that. Let's do something different. So how has that transition been for you?
Well, a number of, we go from teachers that might be working with review packets and a lot of paperwork and things like that. And now they're going, okay, what do I do? Because I send that home. Is it ever going to come back? Are we grading? That was a big part that we were kind of struggling with, is all of this going to turn into a grade? But we are a Google school already. So there's a lot of people that were using Google Classroom already, which made life somewhat easier, because then the communication part for some of our kids, they're already aware of how it works. They're already aware that when somebody posts an assignment, I get an email and it says the due date and I know how to upload something. So a lot of our, we have Google accounts all the way down to third grade, what they actually use them. Their story, they use them a little heavier when you get towards the 5th and 6th grade. And then obviously some teachers do a lot. I know for me in a technology classroom, I do a lot with Google Classroom. The only hard part is that we also use specific technology. So it's kind of like a lab in some ways. So I can't have a kid go home and edit a movie that we were trying to make, because they don't have the technology, or they may not have, I can't count on all of them having the ability to do that. So been doing a lot of recording. We use a lot of Screencastify. If teachers can do that, they're not a big fan maybe of being on the camera, so they'll show everything they can and type on the computer or show something there. We've gone to another one that allows it to be a little bit longer in the non-paid version. But obviously, I should probably know his name by now, but the CEO of Zoom, who has opened this up for educators, has just been a huge blessing, because there's no way we could follow the quarantine or even the social distancing without something like this in the plans.
Right. Wow. Sounds like you're really doing it right, though. You've got a plan, and it sounds like you're executing.
Yeah, our teachers have kind of, it's not been easy, and but I know that they're working hard to do their best to provide an education from when they can't be in front of kids, which is, 99% of the reasons why we teach, I'm sure for most people, is because they want to be in the classroom. And how can we continue that without being directly in front of them physically? So it's been a little difficult there.
And also thinking about our communities. Tell me a little bit about how you've been helping the community, or maybe you're planning to help the community with the technology you're using, or just, how you're coming together during this time.
We've actually tried to do a lot from our superintendent down, trying to do a lot of informing and keeping the morale up. I think that was a big thing. We had kind of, I know I'd worked with Taylor there to find out who he got his sample sunglasses from. So we could get our own Arlington Eagles one, and we were gonna do it as a fundraiser for our yearbook. And then I had purchased them personally just to say, I wanted to help out, wanted to help our yearbook as a yearbook sponsor. And it came down to this, and I was driving to school that morning, that Monday morning, and I said, "Okay, you guys have seen the movie Big Daddy? Maybe not. If you got any reference to that, okay. Well, on Big Daddy, he tells Julian to put on the sunglasses, and when he's in a tough situation, and then when you decide that you're okay enough to let them see you, take your sunglasses off, because you'll be invisible when you have them on." So it kind of reminded me that we got to be looking at this with through the proper glasses. So we just I passed them out that day at school, and just said, "Hey, let's have a right mindset of being hopeful." And because I don't know all the different kids' situations, but if mom and dad are struggling with work, or not having work, or financial issues, and we've got who knows what's going to happen next week, or whatever, this and that, we got to have some form of hope in front of them. So the idea of, looking through those sunglasses and being somebody that they can count on to be kind of calm in the storm, if there's a storm going on at home, I will say that. So we've tried to do some things there to keep the morale of the teachers as we affect students. And obviously our superintendent has been doing daily videos, so we send those out through our class intercom on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram. And then they also send it out as a email to staff and students through our Google email. So it's been really encouraging, but it gives us a way to help reinforce kind of what's important. Hey, we're still in school. You need to practice social distancing, and I know you want to hang out with your friends, but this is the best way that we can probably encourage you to do the right thing. And then the unfortunates of social media, especially when there aren't any adults around, we can also encourage that proper use, so it doesn't turn into something that's negative and hurting each other in the process. So
yeah, man, I love that sunglasses thing. That is genius. I hope every educator writes that down. And for us, maybe we need to send out more sunglasses, Eric.
I got a box right behind me.
What's our perspective?
I can do that.
Yeah. Wow, I love that.
It was like I said, it was just one of those. It's one of those things that I don't know where kids are going to be in terms of their mindset. So
Mhm.
we got to do our best to put our best face on, even if we're
Mhm.
frantically panicking and stressed out. As I'll self admit that my blood pressure was a little higher than normal last week as we try to get everything ready and get people going. So it was a good way, I think, for me to keep myself kind of centered about
Mhm.
about what's going on, out of panic mode.
Right.
Yeah.
Scott, I got something for you. As you mentioned that there was that Friday, it was during state basketball, right? That really things started to really kind of go, okay, something huge is about to happen. But
Yeah.
it seemed like really every day, almost every hour, something new was changing. We have less people can congregate
Yeah.
together. But one thing I noticed that you guys on social media, and I don't know who was on camera, but you guys utilized some of the tools that your class does. You had if I'm not mistaken, that you had the green screen up with the nice backdrop. So talk a little bit about how you guys utilized some of the technology you were already using in that transition period, because boy, there was a lot of messages you guys put out.
Yeah, it was all about trying to make it quality, because I mean, if you have some quality that goes through the whole process. I've always told kids, like, when it comes to yearbook, if you set it up like you meant to do it, it's more likely that people are going to pay attention to it. If it's like haphazard and you just like, I use the word puked a bunch of pictures on the paper, you're going, yeah, nobody's going to look at it because you didn't put any thought and process to it. So when we had this occur, I brought in our superintendent and set up the green screen. We had just some cheap studio lighting that just gives you some forward lighting, um, and using what we have from our Striv setup, it allowed a little press conference feel. And then I got the video, we put it right onto YouTube, and we're able to take that link. They send it out. I put it on Instagram, and it was a very simple way to keep connection with kids. We found out that, kids are very apt with Instagram. I'm the only one that posts to it through our class intercom. So I get all the notifications, and it blows up quite a bit. So I think one of our first videos, we had, 5,000 people engaged. If you include, I can't tell on Twitter. In some ways, I couldn't tell there, but through Facebook and through Instagram, it was a lot of people paying attention to what's going on, and it's been a really awesome way to share information, because, like a lot of things in a press conference, the old adage was, hear it straight from the horse's mouth, and because unfortunately, the telephone game is a little ugly when it comes to big pieces of information.
So I have a question for you. What are you thinking of doing differently in the future under the new normal? So, next fall when we're back in school, when hopefully things are back to normal, but it's a new normal, and you've gone through something that has made you change a lot of things, and the education system looks a lot different right now. And so I'm just curious to know if there's a few things that stick out that you hope to implement when
Yeah.
we're back in school next fall.
Yeah, I think as a school, we're going to see more of this occurring, because, we've battled with, and you go through the whole battles of, like, kids missing 10 days. He's never here. He's got this, he's got that. And so what are we going to do? He's missed so much instruction. Well, we're now
Mhm.
having to learn how to instruct without being there. So I'm hoping that will help eliminate some of those, I don't want to say excuses from the kids of saying, I've missed 5 days in a row, and I had to be here for the instruction, and now I can't get it. So I think there's going to be some people that are going to reevaluate that. I know when I treat what I do now technologically, in my technology classes, as if I have I don't want to say this mean, but like an incompetent sub,
Mm.
that somebody, I know you can't teach it. I know you can't do it, but we got to get it done. So I'm going to make sure I have a screencastify or a video or something to where when you walk into my classroom, you open up Google Classroom and it's right there. And it's, the sub really just has to say, go to Google Classroom, and everything they'll see for that day is right there. I'll probably do that more as a norm, see that instead of being like, I want you to hear it from me first. That's a selfishness. I want you to hear it from me first, and then I'll post it on Google Classroom. Well, you know what? We're going to learn it there so that when you walk in, maybe that day, you'll feel more comfortable knowing where the direction's going during that class period. I think other teachers, and I know through this process, they're going, gosh, if I actually had this all set up and, something weird happens, or I have a kid that misses 2 months, they come down with mono and they miss 2 weeks of school. I don't have to recreate the wheel. I've got a backup plan. So I know there's been some teachers that their hand is kind of forced here, but it's a direction they wanted to go already. They just hadn't taken the time to get there. I know when August comes around, and I'm sure I can speak for a lot of teachers, I think you're just going to cherish the time that you have there, because, you just kind of assume that August to May, you're going to be in class and you're going to be there with students, and you're going to have majority of your students there every day during school. And and then you get a curveball thrown to you and you're going, I guess I'll see you later, or, or whatever that might be. The constant communication, I think I'm going to really cherish that, because I think it's something I got into teaching for, is not just to show somebody. Originally, when I was teaching math, not to show somebody how to solve an equation. It was building relationships and helping people grow up to be somebody that cares about other people and has a job that they're passionate about and a job that they enjoy, and, all that fun stuff that, I can't say I'm getting that same impact, obviously, through a video or through some online learning, because that's concept. Now we're dealing with people, and that's different.
The enrichment of students will never be better taught than by the teacher in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
This has been really good, Scott. Thank you so much for talking with us. The first Striv Educators chat, and I know Sara and I will be doing more of these, but this is a fun way to get started. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Glad to be part of it, and thank you for communicating with me and reaching out to me, and just hope that through this whole process and whatever you guys are able to do with it, it's going to be. I know it'll be beneficial.